Alright, continuing on the Chevy video series, time for a radiator. So let's note some of the tools you're going to need. 10mm socket with extension. Some of these small channel locks are my favorite for undoing these factory springy clamps. Wrenches, I used the line wrench here because at one point I stripped one of those out, so I invested in these. The lines came off totally easy, so you could probably use a regular one. That's something to consider. You might want to use the line wrench. And then a screwdriver can help if your line hoses get stuck on. And then basically, you probably want to drain the radiator so you don't make too big of a mess. I just siphoned it out of the cap. And then you've got bolts along here, along the top, that hold the fan shroud on. So you undo those. And then there's two more down lower on each side on the fan shroud. And there's this wire, the battery wire. You just pull that off. Fan shroud comes right off. Then what's holding the radiator in is these two brackets. So there'll be one more bolt holding those on. Those just lift off. Then you undo the hoses. Now this truck is sort of rare. It doesn't have the oil cooler over here. So if you have that, you have to undo those lines. And they undo very similar to the transmission lines over here. So you just unthread these. There's one up top and one down lower. You unthread those. You pull this hose off that goes to the reservoir. Now these were 5/8. The other side, you're gonna want to look this up, but I heard they were something like 30 seconds or something like that. It was some size that I don't have in this kit from Harbor Freight, but luckily I didn't have to deal with that. Otherwise you're going to want to confirm that you have the right wrench size for those. Finally, the trickiest one, you pull off the bottom radiator hose, and then more coolant's going to leak out when you do that. But after you remove all the hoses and the pieces holding it in, this thing is ready to lift out. So the old one's out and the new one is going in. Now you might want to take a minute to clean it up down in here and inspect your rubber pads. I found a penny and a candy bar wrapper down in there. So the new one pretty much just drops in, reconnect all the lines, bolt everything up. Now I did check for you guys, and if you have your oil cooler, it's going to be right in here on the driver's side, and those are going to be 25-30 seconds. So you're going to want to make sure you have one of those, preferably in the line style wrench that's got the 6 sides, not just the open. Once you have it in, you go ahead and reconnect the hoses with the clamps. The lower one down in there is sort of a pain in the neck to reach down in there. It's best if you do that lower one and then do the transmission cooler lines. Tighten those up. Then you fill it up. Why won't that come off? Alright, well, it's full anyway. You're going to add a little bit to the reservoir. Now, I didn't end up needing to add any transmission fluid because when I checked it, the dipstick was still showing full. So evidently there wasn't enough in there to make enough of a difference that it mattered. But anyways, once it's back together, all the hoses are on. check for leaks, top up the fluids, and you're done. All in all, I would say it took about 3 hours, and I was going pretty slow.